Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Inwarp Mag. Hope you enjoyed our little intro music that we made. So this is our way too late Adepticon episode. There's a little bit of a story behind that because we did actually record an episode in Chicago while we were at Adepticon, but no matter what we did, we could not get the audio to work out. So it's a pity, but then after Adepticon, I got sick for like 2 weeks, and I just couldn't talk clearly, and I did not want to record while I couldn't talk. So, but I'm joined as always with Brooke.
Hey, how's it going?
So we're gonna just try to be very generic, talking about our whole Adepticon experience. When we were there in Chicago, we had an episode about the preview show because it was, I think we recorded it the night.
The next day.
Okay, the next day after the preview show. So we had some like good current information, but oh well. Yeah.
If you wanted to hear about the preview, you've probably already done it. But
yeah, exactly.
At this point, kind of wanted to share our experience with you guys.
Yeah, so I think we're just going to kind of go through our experience chronologically. We'll try not to get caught up on anything too long, but we had a really good time. So just starting out, we drove out to Chicago the Wednesday before the like meat and potatoes of the convention. I know there was stuff on Wednesday that people were doing, I think, for like painting and stuff.
Like during the day.
Yeah, Wednesday is a travel day for us when we go to Adepticon. So we got out to Chicago around like, I don't know, was it like 3 o'clock or so, you think?
I think it was about 3 o'clock, and we headed straight downtown because last year when we went, I was late getting to your place before we left, and we didn't really get to do much in Chicago. We walked around a little bit, but this year because we were there so early, we got to actually see the city more. Mm-hmm. And if you guys have never been to Chicago, it's actually pretty nice. I really enjoyed our time in Chicago walking around. We saw some of the sites, like they have that park where there's the big auditorium thing, the stage, the outdoor theater.
Yeah, the Frank Gehry. It's pretty cool. Frank Gehry is a famous architect, so I'm sure if you know him, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He's like a post-modernist architect.
And from there, we headed out towards Willis Tower because last year we saw it, and you had mentioned that they had a tour to go to the top floor called The Ledge. And I wanted to see the tower up close, but when we got there, we decided that we had enough time and we would make the trek up and actually do the experience of going on the ledge.
There's like no wait too, so even if we bought the like cheap tickets, no wait, we basically walked straight to the elevator and went up to the top.
And actually the cheap tickets because they had a shorter line, we were faster to get up there than the people who had the premium tickets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those
kind of
fools. But yeah, I have a picture of us standing on the ledge, and me and Brooke are both terrified of heights, so it took a lot of guts for us to get like any of these pictures.
And it's on the side of Willis Tower, where it's a sheer drop straight down to the street. Mm-hmm. Because some of the I almost call it Sears Tower. Willis Tower has like different pieces that jut out from the bottom, but this one side is all flush all the way down to the road.
Yeah, after Willis Tower, we went to go get some food. I wanted to go to the restaurant where they shot the show the Bear from.
Oh, one thing about our ledge experience. Tell them about when we went to leave. We wanted to get one last picture.
Yeah, so this picture I think might have been our second to last picture, and we're like, oh, let's get one. I think I might have suggested it. I'm like, let's get one more picture, but like go all the way out towards the glass. You can see the glass at the top of the picture. And we were like halfway across, and the ground creaked under our feet, and we just like crawled back to the floor of the building. We're like, all right, we're just gonna get the hell out of here.
No, tempted death too much. Let's leave.
Yeah.
It was, and for reference, they tell you on the way up that floor is 1.5 inches thick. So when we heard it creak, we're not small guys. And when we walked out there and it creaks, we're like, okay, that's enough. No, no way.
Yeah.
We also took pictures that we're not going to show here, but we sat down on it, and that is more terrifying than just standing on it because you actually have a view of the floor a lot closer, and you can see how thin it is. It was so uncomfortable. When I sat down on it, I had to literally crawl off the glass just to stand up because I was so scared of just pressing my foot down to stand up.
So yeah, after that we went to get food. I wanted to go to the bear place. It was closed. They closed, I think, like a little bit after we arrived in Chicago, so it wouldn't have worked out anyways. So that sucks, but it's a reason to go back to Chicago, I guess. And we instead went to this other place I saw like a couple of times ago. I was in Chicago. I walked past and didn't remember what the place was, and me and Brooke just happened to walk past it again, and it was this like milkshake and burger shop, and they have like alcoholic milkshakes that you can order, and they just like really deck them out. It was really good.
It was super good, but they made us feel awful because they were so sugary. The milkshakes were like decorated with all sorts of treats on top of them. Like I think mine had like a fudge fist because it was called like Rocky Four, and it had a peanut butter cookie and chocolate covered marshmallow, and it was delicious, but we couldn't finish ours.
Yeah, and by the time we finished up there, it was getting kind of late, and we did reserve spots to go to the Games Workshop preview show for Adepticon. And like we looked at the time, we're like, we can make it, and
we'll be about 15 minutes late, but we can make it.
And then of course, as soon as we get like outside of Chicago, we hit a huge traffic jam, and we're pretty bummed because we were pretty excited about.
Oh yeah, that's why we were late. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we were excited about going to the preview show. We hit this horrible traffic jam, and we're just stuck in traffic for like forever. And then we get there, and we're walking around. We've been there before, so we at least know the layout of everything. And we're looking in the main hall because,
well, the one hall it tells us to go to, it's like Schaumburg Hall, and we walked to that door, and we look in it, and there's all the people setting up board games.
Yeah, we're like, this is wrong.
Where's the GW preview?
And we're like, maybe it's over by like where they do all the Warhammer 40K tournament stuff. So we like go over there, and as we're over there, we just hear this giant "what!" like so loud, and we're like, "There's the show." What's over that way?
Crazy.
Yeah. So we're
like, what the hell was that?
So we're walking, and there's like other people who are looking for it too. They're just as lost as we are looking for the preview show. And we go through the door, and there just happens to be like 2 seats open right next to the end of one of the rows, and we just sneak in there. And right when we get there, the preview show started, and
yeah, lights went down as we're sitting down.
They said they were doing a new format this year for the preview show. I guess in years past they do kind of like a more like Q&A panel thing.
It was like a slideshow, I thought, like almost like a PowerPoint.
Yeah, and this year they did like a whole produced video for Adepticon, and I liked it a lot. And honestly, like my biggest impression from going to it was just like how good. I just was like getting chills from being with all the people who, because we've been hobbying this game for a while now, just amongst ourselves. And you don't really feel like that big community as much, and being there and being around all those people who are so excited for any little tease. Like if you've already seen what's been previewed, or you haven't, you can look it up if you haven't. But it wasn't anything really related to anything me and Brooke play. But anytime it was something that somebody was passionate about, you would just hear some people in this huge hall just like getting so excited about whatever was being previewed. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool when they showed the Chaos like re-release or whatever, the remodeling that they did. And people went crazy for that. That was like one of the first things in the preview, and how loud that place was actually, it was really cool. Like gave us chills. The other one that I thought was really funny was the Kill Team reveal when they did the
Votan.
Votan, yeah. And there was a guy behind us when they revealed that. He was like, "Yes, yes, yes!" He was like screaming. It was hilarious.
There was some of it was funny. I think my biggest issue with the preview show was they did like every game, so like they were not going to exclude anyone, which is fine. But like at one point, I think it was like Necromunda or whatever, Necromunda.
Yeah,
They were previewing something for that, and no one clapped. And then
yeah,
one guy,
dead silent.
one guy was just did like a joke, "Woo!"
Yeah,
and he really just broke the silence.
Nothing, not to like talk crap about that game or anything, but it was just weird that like literally nobody made any noise for that game. It was kind of funny.
And then they announced the new edition for Age of Sigmar, which was cool. They had a whole video that they created for that where it was, I don't know,
animation.
Yeah, it was like the Valkyrie or something. I don't know Age of Sigmar stuff.
Yeah, it's like the Golden Knight guys.
Yeah, and then
they showed that lady who became one, saved by Sigmar, and then
it was kind of
reborn over and over and all.
It was kind of funny because the first time she died, one guy cheered. He's like, "Yeah," which cracked me up. And then she just keeps coming back to life, and it's kind of showing how she's been living this like tortured existence of not being able to die.
Dying.
Yeah, it's not so great being immortal, maybe. And then
she looks like annoyed when she dies. She's just like gets stabbed, and she's just like, "Ugh,
I'm dead again." And then the Skaven or whatever.
Skaven, yeah.
This like Skaven horde shows up at the end. So if you haven't seen the preview video, check it out. Even if you aren't into Age of Sigmar, it's really cool.
Yeah, literally just that animation was cool. I mean, check out the animation because it's pretty slick. If I don't know if anybody that's listening to our stuff is like a Blizzard fan and they do their animations for different games, it was like that quality. I mean, if you've ever seen any of the other 40K animations, they're all nowadays really, really good. Like the 10th edition release video was pretty awesome. This one was really cool though. When the rats like that, like the horde of just normal rats started like pouring out of the ruins or whatever the heck, the Skaven capital, whatever the heck that was.
Mm-hmm.
When that starts pouring out, there were people like this one lady close to us just started screaming when she saw that. She was so excited.
She's obviously a Skaven fan, so it was fun just being around people who were passionate about it and sharing that passion with other people, something being new to the game we haven't really gotten to experience. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a cool energy.
So that was our first night in Chicago.
That night after the preview, we got to go to the Games Workshop shop.
Yeah, forgot about that. Yeah,
they immediately they opened up their store.
Yeah, they immediately opened up the store after that, and it was just like a flood of people walking to the store. So I think it's pretty good selling technique, if you ask me, because everybody got pumped and walked straight to the store. Me and Brooke both. I think I made like not all of mine, but most of my purchases were done that night. I bought Defkilla Wartrike, and I bought one other thing too, I thought, but I bought my War Boss. So I So I bought I'm gonna butcher his name because I can't remember right now. It's like that Oofhawk or whatever. Orc players are screaming at me right now, but he comes on a larger base, but you can kind of get him to fit on the standard War Boss base, which was my plan. So that was going to be like my one project while we were in Adepticon. So I was happy I got it that night so I could get started working on it right away, basically.
Yeah, I think I picked up like 4 boxes, and then I was standing in line and I was like, I don't think I need all this.
Put this back.
I think I gave them to you.
Yeah,
half of them to you.
Yeah, I picked my stuff pretty quickly, and it was kind of hard to find like the Space Wolf stuff for you, so it took you a little bit longer to find what you needed.
The thing I bought the first night was the jump pack Primaris guys, and then the captain with them, and then they have the show exclusive model that was they had a Kroot one, and I have a Kroot kill team, so I thought that was cool, so I figured I'd pick that up too.
Yeah, that was a good find.
And then later on in the con, we went back because I noticed that first night when we were there, they had a box of Logan Grimnar, the chapter master of the Space Wolves, in like one of those. It wasn't like marked with his picture on it. It was just like a generic. This is a GW product, and it has a sticker on it that says "This is Logan Grimnar." And I haven't really found him available in many places. He sells out, and then he comes back and he sells out. But I was like, you know what? I want to pick up a Space Wolves thing here, and I picked up him and some Space Wolves heads that looked pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of I'm failing to remember the name, Forge World
Forge World, yeah.
stuff available there that you can't really buy in a lot of places. So that was cool to see some of that stuff. I was looking at some of the Forge World orc stuff that was available, but I'm pretty cheap when it comes to spending. I'm like, I could wait. I'll wait until I finish up my current pile of shame. So I don't know if
There
that's
was a ton of that Forge World stuff too. Like just to emphasize that again, like there was so much stuff for every chapter, and they had Horse Heresy stuff mixed into that. It was sweet. Like the fact that they had all that stuff there, I don't remember that from last year, but
Yeah,
it was cool.
If we're going to Adepticon next year, that's definitely something I'll do again. I'd like to do the preview show. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, I forgot about this. When you bought a certain amount of money, they gave you one of those tarot cards or tarot. I think it's tarot.
Tarot.
Yeah, and when I drew mine, I got the Hound, which I was like, "This is perfect." Like, I am a Space Wolves player. I got the Hound. How appropriate that I get the Hound, because I guess those are like preview cards from like other releases, and they have like a handful. You can collect them all or whatever. And yeah, that was like super appropriate. I got the tarot card that was kind of representing my faction, but
Yeah, then after that, we got back to our hotel for our first awful night in this awful hotel that we'll probably not stay in again. We won't mention any names, but
it was a really bad experience.
yeah, it was like somebody in the room was like getting blood for the blood god in the room. It was horrible. And
they were
not to mention
celebrating.
Go ahead.
They were celebrating Slanesh too much.
Yeah, maybe. And
Too hard.
we didn't even get the beds that we reserved. I had a little rollaway bed, and Brooke had a twin bed, which I didn't even know.
Effectively a twin, yeah.
I didn't even know they had twin beds in hotels, but this one did. So that was.
There's no way it was
awful.
a double. If they said it was a double, they're lying. That thing was a twin.
It took us a while. We eventually got the room we reserved, but they told us we had a king in our first room. We're like, that ain't a king. I wanted to tell them, you should come back to where we live because our kings are humongous. You'll love it. So yeah, that was our first night. Second day, we did a lot of the actual floor, the exhibit floor, and we walked a little bit of like the Star Wars Legion tournament because we still follow that a lot. So
yeah, that's like our main tournament that we follow, and then we were walking around everything else because we've because we played Legion for so long. We actually know a lot of the people that are, like, know them by name. At least we don't know them personally, but we know them by name, and we like to follow certain people in that tournament. So we always keep track of that. They have an app to keep track of all that, and we were following that, walking around to see which table they're playing, what lists they're playing. It's fun.
Even just the year before, even the people that we don't know from, like, famous on YouTube people, we also. I was like recognizing people from the year before. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember him from last year. Like people we might have had like small little interactions with, which is kind of cool. And the exhibit hall, the nice thing about the exhibit hall at Adepticon is it does not take that long to do. Gen Con is cool, but it's like it takes a few days to go through the exhibit hall, and you don't get to hobby as much. So
yeah, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, so we did the hall like probably in like a couple hours, you think?
I don't even think that. We walked the floor and probably. I mean, that was when we were trying to go through the hotel situation. So I think we did it in like an hour.
Yeah, it was a little chaotic. That day was a little chaotic. We lost a lot of time because of the hotel situation. But we saw like the Play On guys walking around. Those guys, like, I gotta give those guys mad respects because they kind of would get swarmed by people, and they didn't like shrug away from the attention at all. Like they interacted with their fans in a really nice in a human way that you would hope
Yeah.
somebody who's like becomes YouTube famous would. So that was really cool to see it. Like Mubin, for instance, was talking to this one like random guy, and I don't think he was with the Play On guys, and he was just talking to him about Thousand Sons, and he talked to this guy for like an hour, and all the other Play On guys were like, "Hey, we gotta go," and he's like, "Okay, I'll see you guys. I'll catch up with you guys later." And he kept talking to this guy, and I was like, "That's really cool." I got a lot of respect for that guy.
Yeah, it makes me view their channel way differently because they were so cool. They're just so down to earth. Talked with fans, took pictures with fans. They were walking through the exhibit hall while we were going through, and there was a group of people that again swarmed them, and they're even cool in being conscious about like the exhibitors. They were like, "Oh no, let's like go over here and take pictures," and they kind of corralled the group that was following them like over to get out of the way of the exhibitors' booths, to be conscious of them. Mm-hmm. They're just really good people. They were nice. They were good to their fans, and they were good to the exhibitors. Like they just seemed like really cool people.
I shouted a good luck to them as we walked past because I knew that a few of those guys were playing in the doubles tournament, so it was cool to see them. We saw some other people too that are have painting channels or just like hobby channels, so that was cool. And I think most of that day we probably spent most of that day, besides the hotel situation, hobbying. Do you agree?
Yeah, we went to the hobby area probably after lunch sometime, maybe like 2 or 3 or whatever, I think, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And we just picked a spot and we started hobbying. And I know you started working on your your war boss, right?
Did we go to the hobbies place right away? I think we might have gone upstairs and we were like sitting at a random table for a while, and we're like that's what we did last year, is we just kind of found a random place in the hotel, because it's like the convention center's connected to the Hyatt hotel there. And we just kind of found a random place where we could set up our hobby stuff and paint. And it was fun. Like, that's what our experience was from the year before. But then later that night, we had always seen, like, there's the escalators that go up to, like, the bar and restaurant area. And tucked behind the escalators are all of these hobby tables with these, like, really nice hobby lights. Tons of paints and stuff that are... We didn't know they were available to everybody, and we just we went back later that evening, I think after we had eaten dinner, and I said to Brooke, I'm like, let's just see if there's a spot open down there. And there just happened to be 2 seats open next to each other, so we grabbed them, and we're like looking around waiting for somebody to say like, you can't sit here or something, but like,
where's your ticket?
Yeah. So we just started hobbying, and like, it was really cool. There's this one guy walking around. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I know he was a Marine. And
shout out to that guy.
He loves Scotch because his dad got him into Scotch, but he doesn't know anything about Scotch. He just knows if he likes it, I think. And he's from Chicago area, and he's moving to St. Louis. So if you somehow stumble upon our podcast, shout out to you. You shared a drink with us. I don't know if you remember it from that night or not, because you were having a good time, and you were fun to be around. I enjoyed it.
Honestly, gave us a good time because it kind of welcomed us into the group of people hobbying there, because he was like walking around and he's like, hey, what you guys working on? And he's like, hey, do you want a drink? And then just talk to us. It was great.
There were multiple people like that too that would just kind of like walk around, and you'd be painting and you're like, it's kind of weird because like I don't view myself as being a great painter, and it's just like weird having like a person watching you paint, and like I'd be working on orcs, like, oh, orcs, that's awesome. And like, I'm not a stereotypical orcs player. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, they want me to scream and spit little specks of spittle on their face. Yeah.
Spittle flies into their nose.
Yeah. So we were working on, besides our Warhammer stuff, we were working a lot on, and this can transition into our next topic. We were working on our list for the Star Wars Legion doubles tournament. Me and Brooke signed up for the casual tournament. We might have touched on it in the last podcast, but we did not have our army painted yet, so we had until Saturday to get it done. So we were working a lot on that.
Feverishly to get two squads of Death Troopers fully complete. Drew was painting one, I was painting one, and we're feverishly painting them to get them done on before Saturday.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was that day. It might have been that day, but I also found when we were walking around the exhibit floor, I bought a 40 millimeter base for my War Boss conversion, and also found some rocks. Like I don't know what they were molded from, resin maybe.
Yeah,
they're like resin rocks that some booth was selling, and I bought those to because he's too large for the 40 millimeter base. I had to make the rocks work, and I didn't want to just put one rock, so I made the rocks all kind of. I made it work. It's like a
platform for him to stand on top of the 40 millimeter base, which was too small for his feet to stand on.
Mm-hmm. And then I covered that I covered the whole thing in Vallejo earth to just kind of make it look like one giant slab of rock and make it look like not just flat and boring. So that was a cool little project to work on while I was there.
Yeah, and he actually turned out super well too. Because did you complete him at Adepticon or right after?
I completed him the weekend after Adepticon. After I had it all done, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get this thing done. I'm gonna paint the whole thing. So
yeah, I think we primed him. We primed him at the hotel.
Yeah, I think I'm
with completely fine things in the hotel. We weren't doing anything crazy.
Yeah, we were very careful. We dumpster dived to get a bunch of cardboard boxes
so we could airbrush.
So yeah, that was totally legit. And then so really Thursday and Friday were a lot of the same thing. We did a lot of hobbying. A lot of it was focused on getting our Star Wars Legion list done.
One day was basically dedicated to that. I think that was Friday. But other than that, we were working on our 40K stuff. I think Thursday we worked on our 40K stuff almost the entire time.
I think Friday night we also got in a really, really quick practice game of Star Wars Legion.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did.
Because me and Brooke hadn't played Star Wars Legion in probably 4 months,
6 months,
5 months,
probably
6 months.
I think it was a while. I think the last time we played it was July of 2023.
You at least played at Adepticons, or Gen Con.
Gen Con, yeah.
And I hadn't played until before then, so yeah, you're right. It was over 6 months. So it was just
kind of 7 months for me, even, and longer for you.
Yeah, we did a quick oh yeah, this is how this works. This is how this works, just to make sure we didn't seem like complete noobs when we were doing it, because we might have touched on this last time, but this was our first time doing any somewhat competitive tournament scene for any of our games that we play. So even though this was casual, we were a little bit nervous for it. And Saturday was the Star Wars Legion doubles tournament, and going into it, it was intimidating because it's only 2 games, but
each game is timed. Each game is it is 3 hours. Then you have a really quick lunch, and then you have another one. But we
started at 9:30,
and
we didn't get done until 6 p.m.
Yeah, it was a long day. It was really fun. The first people that we played against, we played Empire, so we played Oops All Death Troopers. And
with Krennic and Boba and Bosk.
Yeah, double bounty, Oops All Death Troopers, and we had a bunch of shores as well.
Yeah, our whole list concept was kind of gunline supported by bounties. Hope to get maybe a point from bounty, because the objectives were a little bit weird for doubles, and we weren't sure. They seemed like they would be
sure how we'd get any points.
They kind of seemed like they'd be really low scoring, so we're if we have a bounty, that could swing the game for us. So
yeah, if you're not familiar with Legion, bounty is basically +1 victory point, and we weren't sure we'd get any victory points in the first game in particular. And then the second game was
pure chaos.
If it's close, yeah, So, and if you're not familiar with Legion, having two bounty hunters is you have two big playmaker units that can go and make a play on an objective, or chase somebody down and try to claim a bounty. It was that sort of gameplay that we were hoping to achieve. But the first game, our deployments were so close to the opponent that I had Vader rush me, and then the other guy. So we were diagonal from each other on the table, so we were kind of like all the teams were split up that way.
It's like disarray, basically.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with Legion.
And I had Vader charge me from one side on the short end of the table, and then I had Iden and a bunch of Death Troopers charge me on the other end, and I basically got pincered, and I rolled horribly. They kind of swung back a little bit towards the end, but I got kind of bodied. My list kind of got bodied.
Mm-hmm.
We had a chance to win. We had a really good chance to win, but we ended up going to points and we lost.
Yeah, we kind of got. We probably. I think one thing we learned from that game is we probably, like, if it was not casual, maybe called a judge over on a few calls, because there was like definitely one.
It was a line of sight call.
Yeah, there was a line of sight call, and I looked at it and I'm like, I got line of sight on Iden, who was one of my bounties. She's from the Battlefront game, and he's like, no way. He's like, you can't see her. And his buddy, who we're on the same side of the table, looks too. I'm like, I can see her leg. Like, if I can see her base, I can see her. And his buddy he's like, no, I can't see it. And then
I was like, oh, let me get the silhouette out. And then by that time you're like, no.
I was like, it's okay. It's a casual game. I'm like, I don't really. That's fine.
We ended up going back to that later that night and checking that line of sight.
I showed Brooke exactly where. I'm like, this is exactly what I saw, and we put the silhouette out, and Brooke was like, you had line of sight.
The only reason it wasn't obvious when we were in the game is because you could see the base, and the base was covering the silhouette, so they were probably like, oh, I can't see the silhouette, and that was their reason of not. Anyways, it was like. Nothing bad against those guys. Those guys were from Pennsylvania, I think. They were
they're really
cool
good
dudes.
Sports. I thought I think they downplayed their experience a little bit. They were pretty.
They're pretty good.
Good, yeah.
Well coordinated. I noticed that they like text each other at the beginning of the game, and I think they kind of coordinated to take my list out and just focus on me. It worked.
We weren't playing that aggressive either, and also I think maybe the biggest weakness was in our list was being split up, because I was the gunline part of our list basically, because I had 3D Death Troopers, and
I had more shore troopers, but your extra Death Trooper and Bosk was like the key to our lists.
Like your list can aggro, but your list can't aggro with Vader. So you basically got screwed in just getting that pincher maneuver on you. And in our second game, we had a Lord Vader. Yeah, Lord Vader with Dark Troopers, which that was our first time actually going against Dark Troopers at all. Moff Gideon.
Double Dark Troopers. Moff Gideon was insane. That was pretty crazy.
Double dues, a bunch of just like regular
stormtroopers.
Yeah, storms and
IG-88.
Yes, and that was we won. Ended up so the first game we lost. Second game we ended up winning, and I have to say, like, the one opponent that we were going against, he was a really, really good sport, like very, very good sport, and
very knowledgeable of the game.
He was like helping me with rulings sometimes, because I would just forget things. Like I played one of Bosk's command cards that gives him an aim every time an enemy unit activates, and I would forget to put an aim. He's like, Bosk gets an aim. I'm like, oh, thank you. And like eventually at the end of that turn, I'm like, sorry, you have to play my list and yours. And he's like, no, it's okay.
And he was really cool.
His teammate, on the other hand, wasn't the best sport, and part of it was because he just kept kind of like deferring his turn, because you could kind of choose your order of
between the two partners, you could choose which person goes with their list, and we kept deferring to me, and they kept deferring to the guy who was a good sport. And we're basically, me and that guy were basically fighting on our side of the table, and the guy that was across from you, which was the bad sport, he was waiting for you to go, and you wouldn't go.
He really wanted
he
me
kept going to me.
Yeah, he really wanted me to move like my death troopers out, just anything out, so he could get Lord Vader into my gun line. Because
They had burst of speed on him.
yeah, once like a force user gets into your gun line, you're basically screwed. And especially Vader, and especially Lord Vader, he's slow, and it takes him a while to get to your gun line. But if he gets in, you're just gonna get wrecked.
Yeah,
And
he's impossible to get out. He's impossible to deal with once he's in. Yeah, he's super hard to get in, but once he's in, he's insane.
And those guys knew that we were like, this is our first time doing a tournament, and one of those guys actually qualified for Worlds. So like
The good sport did.
yeah, so they were like, I think expecting to just kind of run the table on us and expecting us to make mistakes, which we just basically made absolutely no mistakes that game. And
Yeah, we did really good that game.
we ended up beating those guys on points, and it
It
felt
was super
really
close.
good. Mm-hmm.
It had a kind of an interesting objective where you were supposed to flip the objective onto the table, and we played it a little wrong according to the rules, but we played it fairly compared. They were playing it the same way we were playing it, so it was fairly.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to like flip the objective onto the table, then your people could capture it if it was close enough to them. So it was interesting, but we had like this range battle with them where we were trying to space out Vader and IG-88 and the Dews and deal with the Dark Troopers who were approaching, who were just kind of plodding forward, and we're trying to deal with them. And we ended up just kind of whittling down the Dark Troopers. We never let Vader get in. You had that one play that was awesome, and they even complimented you on it, where they were about to move Vader in, and you had a naked if you're not familiar.
Naked Shores, yeah.
If you're not familiar with it, they just don't have an extra guy, an extra like a heavy weapon on them. They just have like their base 4 guys.
Yeah, I didn't
You moved them out.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to do with them, because like everything, I had kind of plans on what to do with all my units. I get my Naked Shores, and I'm like, all right, what am I going to do with these? And I know Vader's going to be right in my face that turn. It was our last turn, and he was expecting to get Vader in on, I think he was trying
to get to Bosk.
Yeah, because if he killed Bosk had a bounty. Did Bosk have the bounty?
Yes, he did have a bounty because you got the kill on IG-88.
Which
but he would also be a bunch of points. That was I think that was the reason he really wanted to kill him.
Yeah, so I ended up screening with my Shores, because we're talking, and we're like, what do we do with these? And I was like, oh, I know. And I move them up, and I just like create this screen right in front of my whole army with the 4 Shores, and I space them out the maximum distance I can from the leader to just make this huge screen. And the one guy who's really good sport, he's like, that was a really good move. Like,
yeah.
At that point, you could see he was thinking like, we lost this game.
Yeah,
because that move.
It was clutch because it basically forced them to try to shoot the Shores, and they didn't kill enough Shores to create a big enough gap for Vader to get through. And it was just game over because they couldn't kill enough stuff.
Yeah, and we got really lucky on some rolls. We had to do a ton of saves at the end there. And Brooke had a unit with just like 1 Death Trooper left.
There's 1 Shore Trooper, and it was the difference of, because I had a full Shore Trooper, which is like almost 100 points, like 80 or 90% points, and it was the difference in points for us to win the game. And there were 2 bombs, because one of the environmental conditions is that there's random bombs that drop on the field that you and your partner get to place bombs next to their guys, and they get to place bomb next to your guys. And this guy just happened to have 2 bombs blow up on him. So I had to make 2 saves to try to keep him alive. And if he survived, that whole unit doesn't count towards the kill points, if you're not familiar with Legion. And he clutched up 2 saves. I had 2 critical saves. And then we looked at it after the game, and we're like, oh my God, that was literally the game. Like him saving those 2.
Yeah, there's like a lot of critical moments in like that unit not dying, that unit screening Vader off of Bosk. Bosk also had to kill IG-88 because IG-88, or we had to kill IG-88 because IG picked up a bounty. So
Yes.
we had to kill him off the board, and the Death Troopers ended up shooting him off the board. So there's just like a lot of things that had to go exactly right and not get cold dice, and it went our way.
We had to finish off that last Dark Trooper with full armor that we had like one last shot on him. I think with your Death Troopers, you had to pick up one last model with one wound on him. It was like really close.
Yeah, that was very intense. And I don't think they were expecting us to shoot their Dark Troopers off the board either. So I think that was a bit of a surprise to them too. So I think
did we play 3 turns with them? 3 or 4?
Yeah,
I
we
think
did.
it was 3.
We did ended up doing 3 full turns with them.
It was a fun game. It was a little annoying with the one guy, but overall, like the actual gameplay of that was so tight. It was a nail biter to the end. It was a lot of fun. It was a really good experience to play that. And actually, like I told Drew going into this, is my goal was to go 1-1, and we went 1-1. So that was a lot of fun. And we got some extra prize points to go and buy some special either like dice or cards, and we got a few of those.
Yeah, that was really cool. So that was a good time. I don't know if I'll necessarily do it again. It'll maybe next year I'll be itching to do it again. I'm just not like the most competitive person, but I did enjoy doing it. Even in a non-competitive event, I have to say I'm not super competitive to have the drive to do something like that again, but it was a lot of fun.
We were talking about maybe doing the 40K doubles, but then we realized that the 40K doubles is multiple days, and we're like, well.
and it's ultra competitive, so it might not.
We're like, maybe not
play style. But yeah, so that was Saturday, like during the day. But then the big thing about Saturday night is like a lot of the painting stuff that people are working on for like the Golden Demon, and then they also have all of these dioramas set up, and so that's just a huge night of Adepticon. And we missed it last year, and we really wanted to make sure we didn't miss it this year.
It's a huge night to just see. I mean, Adepticon is, I mean, if you don't know already, it's basically a miniature painting and gaming hobby con. Basically, it's like the ultimate hobby con. And this Golden Demon contest, or whatever painting contest, is probably the biggest one in the world. If not the one that's over actually in England, where the Games Workshop does like their GW World or whatever Warhammer World event. But we did walk around we walked around the Golden Demon on Saturday. That was before the dioramas, and we kind of took some pictures of some stuff. Do we want to go through some of the pictures that we took?
Yeah, let me see if I can bring those up. So, yeah, here's the picture of the Blood Angels, I think.
Yes. So I think they're Blood Angels. They're from there's a game that I have a board game of, but it's also a video game, Deathwing, but they're Dark Angels in that. But the ones in the board game is can't remember the name of it. It's a card game, but it's based on the image that you see there, where the Gene Stealers are attacking a squad of Terminators, Blood Angel Terminators, who are trying to make their way through a Space Hulk. And I saw that, and I thought that was the coolest thing. I thought it was like this. It's literally the embodiment of that board game, it's one of my favorite board games right now. It just looks so cool. The action shots are sweet. It looks like something straight out of like Alien. I had to take a picture of that one. I don't think it won anything, but it was like far and above one of my favorites.
I think it got like third or something in its category. So I think this one did win something. So I'll bring up the second picture, which is this banner. So there was a lot of this kind of thing that we saw there, where it was just very impressive, like the paints, the I guess the effort that went into painting it, you could say. Let me try to zoom in.
This is one that won Golden Demon in its category, but I wanted to show this banner because I took a picture, a close up of this banner. It's so insanely detailed. The folds of the fabric the paint like follows the folds of the fabric in a logical way. The writing on the actual purity seals and whatever, like that sort of stuff, it's just so good. I was stunned at how clean people did like the banners and tabards and all sorts of stuff. And you're gonna see it in the next one too that we're gonna show. But like, it's crazy. I was shocked. We didn't actually look at Golden Demon last year that much, but this year looking at some of these I mean, pieces of like works of art. Honestly, it's inspiring. I certainly inspiring, but it's kind of awe-inspiring too. Where you're just like, dang, like that had to take forever. Like the detail is so insane. It's so finely done. It looks like a printed picture that they put on the banner rather than a painting, like an actual paint job. It's so clean. It's so good.
Let me bring up the next one, which this one was from Old World, right?
Yeah, I think so. Or it was like Age of Sigmar. I think it was Old World though. I think you're right.
But it's got some similar art going on with the banner, which I thought this one was really impressive. And I don't know if it was painted. It didn't win in the category at all, so I suspect that maybe not as much of it was as painted as we thought, but still, like the fabric.
Our untrained eyes.
Yeah, our untrained eyes can't tell the difference. So the banner on here was just as amazing looking, and like I'll try to zoom in on like the fabric on the horse.
Yeah, like that dragon on the horse is so clean. The whatever the image is on the banner is so clean. I'm just really thoroughly impressed at how good some of these miniatures look. Just the cloth in general, because I think cloth is one of the harder things for me at least to paint. But they make it look so good. It's so clean. It's so natural looking. Yeah, it just kind of inspires me to put a little bit of extra effort into the next guys I do that have like a cape, you know? So it makes me want to do better on my own things, because they are seriously inspiring. They are really cool. The fur on the horses, by the horse's hooves, you know, the armor on the guy. It's really cool.
And the way the material looks like a little tattered and stuff at the bottom of whatever the horse is wearing. I don't know what you call that because I'm not a medieval nerd, but I thought it was, I don't know. This one was really cool. That was one we were like walking by. We're like, oh, we got to take a picture of that to show on the podcast. All right,
I'm genuinely surprised that one didn't win anything.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull up another one that didn't win anything either, so unless you were there.
But we loved this one.
You probably didn't see it on GW's website or anything, but and I'm suspecting this one probably didn't win because I imagine this was like airbrushed or whatever, but just the creativity of it was like really cool. So it's just like I don't know if it is this
it almost looks like a Tyranid, some Tyranid form. I don't know what it is.
And it's getting shot at by I guess
just an Imperial Guard guy.
Yeah, an Imperial Guard, and the laser's in mid-flight, and like the laser is illuminating the scene. So it's just like he or she did this really extensive like diorama for this setting that they're fighting in, and then had to like airbrush the whole thing to make it look illuminated by this laser beam, and it was just really impressive.
And it's really convincing to like maybe this picture doesn't do it justice, but it's really convincing. Yeah, it's super convincing when you're looking at it in person at how the rest of it, where it's not illuminated, actually does look like it's in the dark. It's not just gray or black. Like the guy's outfit is actually the colors that it should be, but it's just dark because it's in the dark, you know. And on the other side is illuminated pink, and it's still the same. It's still the colors that it should be, but it's like illuminated pink, you know. It was so impressive. We looked at that one for a while. We're like, wow, that is. It was just such a cool, you know, I guess example of OSL, object source lighting, something that I've tried to do a couple times, and it's pretty hard. But that one it was so cool. In person, it looked a lot better. I think. I don't think this picture does it any justice, but we wanted to note that one because it it was super impressive.
Yeah, I think that how convincing it was, that's what was amazing about it, because you would have been convinced that there was like some LED or some small light inside of it that was actually lighting the whole thing up, but it was all just paint, which was really impressive. So
Yeah.
that's all of the pictures we basically wanted to show from Golden Demon. After that, after we looked at all of the Golden Demon entries, we went to the main, kind of not the main hall, it's like the hallway area, and
Yeah, hallway next to Schaumburg Hall or whatever.
and everybody sets up their, I guess they get them ready each year for Adepticon, but these huge dioramas of like whatever game that they're playing. It's I guess in the past it's mostly been Warhammer 40K, but there was some people with like Marvel Crisis Protocol set up, and we ended up talking to those guys. They were the guys from the Fifth Trooper, if you know them, Jay, and the other guy's name escapes me right now, but he's also one of the guys from the Fifth Trooper. But we talked to those guys for about 15 minutes, and they were like super down to earth too. And we talked to Jay a little bit about some of his terrain, because he talks about how much he has enjoyed painting terrain, and his diorama looked really good, and he's got some tables there that we know are things that he worked on, and just complimented him on that. So that was a really cool interaction.
And how many tables did he say he brought? Like 20 tables of terrain?
It was some crazy amount.
It was a stupid amount of terrain, but
and he's from New York, so he drove that much terrain from New York.
Yeah, he's shout out to him, because he was super nice. He was super fun to talk to. He took a lot of time to talk to us in the middle of this, showcase. He was just chatting to us for a little while. It was cool.
It wasn't a get away, I'm done talking to you thing at the end. We were like,
right,
bye, we're gonna leave now.
Yeah, we're like, oh, well, it was fun talking to you. It wasn't like, it wasn't just like us being shuffled away. It was just more like, okay, like, well, we'll root for your guys that are in the tournament and stuff like that. Like, it was really cool. He's a really cool dude.
And then we were pretty tired that night. I don't know if we did much hobbying after we looked at all the dioramas, which
I think we did a very short amount, but yeah, we're tired.
But we walked around a little bit, and one thing
no, we didn't. We didn't that night.
Yeah, we were exhausted. But the one thing we did do is we were walking in that Schaumburg Hall, because there's like all the other games that aren't basically Star Wars or GW, and we just kind of stumbled upon this one game that all these people were playing, and we had seen the game for sale at several stands, and everybody's dressed up playing this game like pirates. Yeah. And we're like, what the heck's this? So we just stood and we watched this game for a while, and it's just like these really impressive looking boats and stuff, these late 17th, early 18th century ships, and they're just having like a ship battle, and they're all really decked out for it, which was really cool.
Yeah, the ships, like, for scale, they're like about a foot long, maybe a little bit shorter than that, like 10 inches long, and their masts are like probably a foot long, tall, and then they have their own custom made cloth sails on them that they've like made and weathered, and they'll paint stuff on them, and it's like these really big ships on a mat of like water or islands or whatever, and they're navigating around the map with whole crews of miniatures in the ships with like little miniature cannons and stuff all on the ships, and they're having like these ship to ship battles where like in some they're like ramming each other, and you can see like they are rolling, I assume, for like the ship to ship, like hand to hand combat and all that stuff. It was cool looking. It was really cool. We'd never seen anything like it.
And it's funny because just like that impression watching those people play that game, we ended up going, when we got back to our hotel, there's a little stand set up there selling games, and they had like the cheapest copy of that game that you could buy at the convention, and we're like, hey,
it was by $1 too. It was cheapest by $1.
And we ended up going in on that together to buy it, so because it's a starter set to have a pirate faction and one of them being the UK. So we ended up splitting that up, and
Yeah,
it worked out perfectly because you wanted to do pirates, I wanted to do the British. So
yeah, we were kind of like tiptoeing, like, oh, which one do you want to do? And I'm like, because I think it came with
Blackbeard.
oh, Blackbeard, yeah. And I was like, oh, Blackbeard sounds cool. And
And mine came
little
with
little
Robert
I know,
Maynard.
yeah, little do I know, you're like eyeing up the UK guys because of Master and Commander.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, which ones do you want? And you're like, oh, I want the British guys. I'm like, oh, perfect. I want Blackbeard. So
And it really doesn't even change what you get because you get exactly the same thing. It's just what flavor of faction do you want. So I like the British. So worked
yeah,
out. So we were thinking we were gonna do our first game of Warhammer that night, and that didn't work
we're
out. We were
exhausted.
just so tired from that day of Legion. So
Oh, the one thing that I wanted to talk about, it was this night. We were walking in to do like the look around at the dioramas, and then when we walked in, I think that was this night. When we walked upstairs I think we went to go use the bathroom up and by like the restaurant and the bar, and we go up there and there's all these folded tables
mm-hmm.
set up everywhere, and we're like, what the heck is going on? And there's all these people with like bins and bags and cases of minis that they just like have on the tables, and we're like walking around and we're like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's the pop-up shop, it's the pop-up trade show or whatever. And we're like, what the hell is that? And it's just all these people can pay $5 to the person who's running it, or the Adepticon person who's running it. You pay $5, you get a spot at the table, and you can trade any of your collection that you want, or sell it or whatever for whatever price that you put on it to anybody that walks up. And I ended up getting a couple things there, but they had a ton of stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it was actually kind of funny. We were walking around, and I kept seeing old Space Wolves stuff, and I'm like, "What's wrong with Space Wolves? Why is there so much Space Wolves?"
Yeah, I think it was funny because you'd see people with their like what it looked like their entire list. Like there was a guy who just he had what is it, World Eaters? Is that the
Oh
corn
yeah,
corn army? He had an entire World Eaters list, and it looked like he was just done. He's like, I'm selling my World Eaters army, and it was really
yeah,
well painted, and it was gone. Like I think a half hour after I walked past that area, I was like, damn, that dude checked out. Shame.
yeah. There was a guy selling like old codices, so they had like second edition, third edition, fourth edition, fifth edition codices, and other White Dwarf magazines and different game old books. But that was pretty cool. I almost bought a couple of those, but it was all cash, and I ended up buying with the cash I had on me, which I didn't have much. I ended up buying 3 eradicators and then 3 aggressors with the flame gauntlets. They're all built and primed, so I didn't have to do any of that. And I got them both for $50, which is like the price of one box, and I didn't even have to build them. So that was cool. That was a really cool little event that popped up. So if you're at Adepticon on Saturday that night, go up to where the bar and the restaurant area is, because that pop-up shop is pretty cool, and there's a lot of hidden gems to get there.
Yeah, it's people talk about how notoriously hard it is to buy GW stuff at a discount. So that's your event if you want to get stuff at a discount. So
Yeah, for real.
it was crazy. There was just so many people in that area just trying to get a look at what they could possibly get their hands on. A lot of Space Marine stuff, not a lot of Orc stuff. So it was good for
One
you. For me, I was like, there's like some Orc stuff, but I was like, I don't need this. I already have something for that right now that I need to paint, so I'm not gonna buy another.
one last thing I wanted to touch on before we go to Sunday is we walked around some of the other games, and one of the impressive things that I can say for pretty much all the other games, like we walked around, there was Lord of the Rings tables, there was bolt action tables, there was there was a ton of stuff that I don't even know the name of the games that they were playing. They had Infinity. There was the Infinity tables that were like
Mm-hmm.
just giant clusters of a
Terrain.
ton of terrain. Yeah, but the one table that we took a picture of that was super impressive was the bolt action table. I think it was bolt action at least. It was some World War II game, and it was Stalingrad, and that was so cool. It
Yeah,
had
it
that
was
big monolith.
the concrete monolith. If you
Yeah,
know of the battle at all, you could look it up, and it was like a pretty accurate scale model of the concrete monolith in the rail yard. So it was really neat.
they actually had like craters and trenches. It was a sweet table. Like tons of work that goes into that stuff, but it's such a cool showcase for all these different games. Like shout out to all the people who make those tables and bring them to this con. I have no idea how they transport that stuff.
Yeah, it's you gotta have a minor in logistics, I think, to like
Yeah.
travel with all that crap. But so Sunday we ended up saving our first game of Warhammer 40K 10th edition for Sunday, and we got there pretty early because we knew like stuff would be closing down pretty early on Sunday, and they have they have like gaming tables set up on the second floor, just above like Schomburg Hall or whatever. And we went up there after we did like one last walk of the exhibit floor just to see if there's anything else we wanted for Blood and Plunder, the game we picked up. And then we basically set up kind of with the intentions of not really playing a full game anyways. It was just kind of like going through the motions of setting up a mission, setting up our deployment, and figuring out who goes first, and moving and attacking and
Yeah, going
fighting.
through the different phases, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like for my first impression is like it's actually it's from playing Legion. Like when you play Legion, you're just dissecting every move. And maybe this is just an experience thing too, but I feel like you kind of get in analysis paralysis with Legion when it just comes to the movement phase, like of moving units. Not that there's a movement phase in Legion, but when you're going to move units, you're just like, can't move here, or he'll get shot off the board by this, and it just becomes a whole. The whole game is all about positioning and range and stuff like that, and I didn't feel quite the same restriction in Warhammer. I don't know. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I like the the fact that it's you go, I go in Warhammer, like your whole turn and then my whole turn, is actually kind of nice from like a like a cognitive load aspect. Because when I go with my stuff, I worry about all my stuff all at once. And I'm like, oh, what's the best thing for my guys during my entire turn? And then I get to do all that stuff, do all the shooting, all the melee that I can, and then I hand it over to you. And all I have to worry about is, do I want to use a stratagem at some point? And other than that, I'm just going, oh, these guys save on this, and I roll my dice. And it's actually kind of nice because in Legion, as you alluded to, it is I go with one unit and then you go with one unit. And not much has changed in between our turns. Like when I go and then you go, you have one unit's turn worth of new information, and now you have to make another decision with another unit, and that doesn't give you enough information to go, I should do this immediately most of the time. And a lot of the time you're just kind of stalling or waiting or like trying to delay stuff, and like your like sequencing of actions is super important in a game like Legion, also Kill Team. Whereas Warhammer, you can be like, I move this guy, and I move that guy, and I move this guy, and I move this guy. I'm going to attack with this guy first because why not? And I'm going to attack with this guy next because he has a cool battle over here. And it's like you don't have to worry about the sequencing as much. So there's like less to worry about in that aspect, which makes it faster almost in how you, I guess, play out your turn, because you don't have to do all the analysis of, well, if I go over here with this one unit, then he can go immediately and react to that one unit that moved, and he's going to get shot immediately. It's just, it is a pretty big difference for us because we've never played a game like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing that was a big takeaway for me is I just need to learn like my rules more, I guess. Maybe not rules.
Same.
It's just like I just I know the rules, but I just forget about them while I'm playing. So like they got to become more second nature for me. So like I never got to do my Wa turn, even though I probably should have done it because we ended up doing what 2 turns.
Yeah, it was like it was almost a full 2 turns. Yeah,
I I should have done my Wa on turn 2 because that's kind of when we were really going to be clashing. So I would have gotten the you know I would have been a lot more survivable and I would have been hitting harder. So I didn't do that, but I still hit hard. I was running a 10-man blob of knobs with the war boss, and those guys crump hard.
they wrecked. They
Yeah.
wrecked.
Um,
They between them and your truck, they took out my Thunderwolf cavalry.
yeah, I did now the name is the one stratagem, the tank shock with
Oh
the
yeah,
truck because you pick the strength of a weapon and you roll that many dice, and I did the wrecking ball, which is strength 10. So just rolling 10 plus what, like 2 dice, or is it plus 3 or something like that?
I
And,
think yeah, something like that.
and then it does what, mortals?
Mortals for every what 5 up or 4 up or something.
Some,
Like it
yeah, I
was
think
just
it
like
was like
free
4 up.
damage.
Yeah, yeah. So like the truck was gonna die, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna kamikaze into your. Did I? Was it your Thunderwolf Calv that I
Yeah,
tank shocked? Yeah.
because
So.
I tried to kill your truck with my Eliminator
Mm-hmm.
squad, and I almost did. They got a pretty spiky roll on their damage, and I took your truck down to I think 2 wounds, but then you were able to charge them into my Thunderwolf cavalry, and it got its points worth in damage. It did a ton of damage to them,
Mm-hmm.
which my Thunderwolf cavalry are kind of insanely strong. They were really tanky. I fit them all with the shields, and they survived almost a full. Did they get through a full round? I don't remember, but they just the ability for them to attack back was like enough for them to get their points worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if I did my Wa, I would like my impression at the end was like, dang, like the like how fatal the game is, like how quickly
Yes.
things die and stuff. You're just like, damn, like I felt like, and I suppose this is pretty common for Warhammer, but I feel like after turn 2, the game would have been pretty well made up because Mazrag really kind of like my dice were pretty hot at the beginning, and then my dice went cold with Mazrag, and he didn't save anything, and he didn't hit for crap either. And I was like, damn, that's so disappointing. And I kind of had like, I don't know, like he was my favorite model, so you have a little bit of that model anxiety where you're like, oh, I really want this one model to do really
Yeah.
good, and he sucked, and I was like, oh, I'm really bummed out because of that one model. But the Codex is out now, and he's not as good anymore, so
Wait,
that's
what? Really?
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
he's
what?
he's good, he's good, but he's not a solo guy anymore, so that's a little disappointing.
Oh,
But that's fine. I'll have to get Gaz now, so and I want Gaz anyways, so
I,
that's not a
I think
problem.
I think the thing that you hit on that is probably one of my biggest takeaways is that the rules for like a given unit, there's so many rules that you need to keep track of, and it's not just the unit that you're running. Like I have the Thunderwolf Cavalry, and I have to manage all their stuff, but also I had like the Wolf Lord, and he gives them benefits. And then I had the guys, the Blade Guard vets, and they were led by Ragnar and the Lieutenant,
Hmm.
and both Ragnar and the Lieutenant give the Blade Guard benefits. And then I also have to know what the Blade Guard get to do. And then I also need to know that, the Wolf Lord with the Thunderwolf guys has a different attack than the normal Thunderwolves. And then I have to know, like, oh, I need to attack with Ragnar's weapon too. And the Lieutenant has a different weapon. Like, there's a lot going on in the rules when you like combine leaders with units that it ended up being that I think I forgot majority of my special rules throughout the game. Like I didn't remember a lot of like the leader benefits that I had. I forgot to do some like the enhancements that I had. Um, yeah, I think I think that just comes down to I didn't learn my rules very well before we started playing. So that's probably just like a hey, go learn the rules thing. But there's a lot per unit on like what you can do and a lot of stuff that you need to just I mean, I guess memorize. I don't know if there's a better way. Whereas like we're used to Legion, where you have the cards in front of you typically, and they tell you exactly what everything does on a standard card sized card that has the rules on them, and you don't need anything else really. And it is a lot simpler to run a unit with whatever guys you attach to it. Whereas in Warhammer, there's a lot of rules per unit that have all these different special abilities, and yeah, there's just a lot going on per unit that we just have to get used to.
Yeah, I kind of felt like after playing, I wouldn't want the game to be more complicated by having more rule flavor and stuff like that. That was kind of one of the initial complaints of 10th, is that they removed all the flavor out of the game by coming up with like core rules and stuff like that, core keywords that everybody shares. So it's just kind of like, why do you want this game to be more complicated? Because it's like, I get like we are new, so maybe we just need to learn it better. But at the same time, it's like, do you want your game to be so punishing to like new people to play it? Because
Yeah,
it becomes harder to grow. And I think my biggest takeaway in general from Adepticon was just like how much fun it was to be with that large community of people who are passionate about the game all together. So you want to grow that community, and have more people who are passionate about the game.
yeah, I agree. I think the rules are fairly complicated still, even though it's simple, simplified or whatever they called it.
Mm-hmm.
Simplified, not simple or whatever.
Yep.
It still has a ton of fluff inside the rules of, this character gives this benefit and this unit does this thing, and there's a ton going on. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a Space Marines player, because I have a ton of options, but it feels like I'm like overwhelmed with my options sometimes, where I'm just like, man, I have so many different things I can do, and I just really need to just go, what do I like? Okay, I want to do the thing I like. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of do that. Obviously I'm going with the wolf stuff, but I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but like after a game, for my list that we played, one of the takeaways was Bjorn was actually a lot better than I expected. Bjorn, I didn't think
Mm-hmm.
was going to be that good. Bjorn was kind of amazing. And I know like you had said that you were like, oh man, I got to figure out a way to deal with something like Bjorn, somebody that is a dreadnought, and can do a ton of damage. And how do you deal with that? And Bjorn is very tanky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I liked having Bjorn, or just a big model like that I can just have a big fun piece like that. Like I have a repulsor that I'm going to put together. I bought a Land Raider because I was excited about that after seeing some of those at Adepticon. So like big things like that are things that I'm pretty excited about. And maybe instead of worrying about all the different options I have, I'll probably lean into something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now that my codex is out, like I have there's like three different options that I'm really interested in. So, and we'll save that for a different podcast because this one is very long already. So, yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
I think our biggest takeaway though from Adepticon in general is just like again, 2 years in a row, it was still just as fun as the first year, if not more fun. I think discovering new things, trying out new things, just made it a whole different experience. It didn't feel like there was overlap. And then just like for Warhammer, just getting a little bit of a taste of the community that is around Warhammer and just GW games in general, it was kind of like ignited a little spark in us, to want to keep playing. Like we've only played the one game so far, and I really want to play the next game soon. It's I just need, I have a lot of stuff to work on, especially with the codex being out. I have a lot of stuff to do to be able to play any of my codex lists besides like the one that came with the index. But
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I think Adepticon is the best experience to have as a hobby, whether you're a painter, a player, or, just want to go and see a tournament, you're a competitor. That stuff that con is easily the best experience that I've ever had, going to anything like that. It went so fast. Like by Saturday night, we're like, man, this has flown by. Like we were having so much fun, and it felt like we just didn't really want it to end. When Sunday came around, we were kind of bummed that we're already done with Adepticon. It was so much fun. It's something that I'm glad that we took the leap last year to go to it, because this year was so much more fun because of, now we're into Warhammer. We actually knew what we were looking for this year, and we got to experience the dioramas, and it was just such a good time. I implore so many of you out there who are on the fence of going to Adepticon, go to Adepticon. It is so much fun. It is worth the trip. It's it's central US, so it's relatively close to most people. Go there. It's great. Even if you have to take a flight, it's worth it. It's so much fun. The one thing that we didn't touch on that I wanted to touch on right before we end this podcast is when we walked around the 40K tournament. Tell the people what we saw. Yes. What the people used to bring their armies to the table.
Yeah, so like pretty common for like Star Wars Legion, people just have like the cookie sheets basically with magnets, and you'll see people walking around with just a lines of units all on a cookie sheet. And you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's Star Wars Legion. You go over to
Efficient.
Warhammer 40K, and like people will have their own custom dioramas on like little trolleys that they push around, and it's like, wow, it's like these people are so passionate about their army or whatever. They just have like a whole diorama dedicated to it. It just kind of feels like if you watch like a boxing match or whatever, the guys wearing like their robe and like they have their entrance, they got their whole entourage with them walking to the ring and stuff. It's just like, boom, here's my army, I'm here to fight you in a match. So that was really cool to see, like that the like do what's fun in Warhammer kind of like almost translated to the whole tournament scene too, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's cool that the people who were playing weren't just like strictly competitors, who like bought stuff off of eBay. Like they were passionate enough to put together these dioramas and bring those as their army transport to the tournament. That was so cool. I've never seen anything like that. It actually, like we talked about it, we're like, we should do that for Legion. Like, why don't people do that for Legion? It was cool. That was really inspiring. It made me kind of want to make something custom for my own stuff.
Yeah, maybe if we do Legion again next year, we don't have to get half of our list ready before the tournament. We can work on a diorama instead.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, this podcast is getting really, really long. Maybe
making up for the missed weeks. We're giving them extra.
That, or I don't know. Maybe we'll split this up into a two-parter or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But our future podcasts are not going to be this long. This again is our way too late Adepticon recap episode. We intended on a really small thing, but yeah, I think we couldn't have done it any other way. It was just so much stuff. It was an action-packed weekend.
I can't wait for episode 55, and we're still saying we're not going to make these this long normally.
No, trust me. I'm gonna really clamp down on my producing, and we're not gonna go this long. This is 100. This is an hour and 20-minute episode, so this is unusually long. So.
Yeah, we'll cut them down for sure.
All right, well, we hope you guys enjoyed our recap of Adepticon. Again, like Brooke was saying, if you've considered going to Adepticon in the past and you've been on the fence, just do it. Just go, because we were unsure the first time we went, and we loved it, and we loved it this second time too. It's almost like there's something new to discover each time you go there, and you just have new experiences every time, and it's an amazing time. It's not about buying stuff, or it's not commercial or anything about that. It's about playing the game that you love and you're passionate about with your friends and other people who are passionate about the same thing as you. So it's an amazing time. Check it out. We had an amazing time ourselves, and it was awesome to get our first game of Warhammer 40K in there. And that's it. That's all we got for you guys this week.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Later.